Hey everybody, it's your buddy Bear Grizzly, and we haven't done this news thing in a while. We've been talking about lore and some extra story stuff pretty heavily, so I figured it's time to chill a bit. First, something I really want to try and do is show off some artists. There's a lot of them out there, all of them so talented. I'll have links to tweets so you guys can reference the artists within the description below. There are a lot of very awesome people that are out there, and to pick only two is a little tough. Also, if you have any art you'd like to show off, I have ways to contact me on the page, as well as Twitter and so on. Twitter is turning into the best place, however, to get a hold of me. Moving on though, let's talk about the beta and the news that came out of it. First off, we had a chance to look at the farm for all of an hour, or rather, I guess, get into it within the hour and then stay there for as long as we wanted. That was funny. I went to get some food and take a small break from all the recording I had done, and I came back expecting to be in orbit, but nope, I was still sitting on the roof. Warlock on the roof. Someone draw that up, and then make it into a musical. I had a rather unique experience, however, since I was all by myself. There was no one there beside me. I was all alone. Anyway, there isn't much to discuss at the farm with what we were able to interact with. There's some Morse code that rattles off that I didn't unfortunately get a chance to get the full set in time to figure out what it may have been, as well as a lot of crates, weapons, ship parts. Oh, and wire climbing. That was fun. I got all the way out there. The drop wasn't pretty. The crates, however, are what's interesting to speak on. Looking over my footage, I found a lot of Dido boxes, which were also highly present in the tower during the homecoming mission, some Tex Mechanica boxes by the Cryptarch station, and some dead orbit boxes littered amongst the rabble, but no future war cult, and no new Monarchy. We know they're still around from the covered ship, a future war cult, and boxes littered around in the tower mission, but we don't see them in the farm. We also see, in some of the early trailers, that their faction emblems are all over the place. So this brings up a couple questions, or at least one big one. The first, did they mostly all get out of the tower? And more so, where did they go? I think lore has a few bits of information about this, and it goes back to the basics of the factions themselves. New Monarchy has this giant interest in making Zavala their king. The idea is to bring a strong leader on board and have someone to follow that isn't under some kind of heavy religious influence, as there is with the speaker. The idea is the Traveler is dead, so why should we keep following the ideas of someone that can't necessarily prove their link to the Traveler? Zavala is their ace in the hole, for someone they feel is incorruptible. Being that Zavala goes to Titan, and we, as the Guardian, find this information out somehow, I think it's safe to assume that New Monarchy may have followed along with him to try to get him back. At this point, especially, humanity needs a leader. And what better time to try and get Zavala in place than now, when the speaker is nowhere to be found? As for Future War Cult, I think the best place to find them may be on Io, following after Ikora and searching for some extra information that could be linked to the days of the collapse. Ikora says this is where she was revived as a guardian, and it's her place to meditate and understand her powers again. But Ikora and FWC follow some similar ideas in terms of information gathering. Plus, it just makes sense for them to follow along with, of course, the new introduced planets. Really though, I feel the reason this holds some weight is due to the differing opinions of the factions as a whole. They have nothing unifying them now. One of the conversations happening over on my recent video about us being similar to the Hive is what will happen after we fend off the onslaught of enemy forces that are surrounding us. Will we be done with the fighting? Will we break out into the universe and start fighting against forces that could cause us issues in the future? Will we go back to infighting? The faction wars could very well be more of a reality once again, and to me, with Dead Orbit being the only faction we see on the farm, it makes me think we're all going to be spread out again, with FWC in one corner, Dead Orbit in another, and New Monarchy in another. They all have rather different philosophies of our time and how to handle it. Thus, I'm led to believe this to be the case. For now, everything could just spit back in my face for all I know. Still, I'd love to know your thoughts on where the other factions may be. Are they out in the stars? Have they branched out? Or are they still here on Earth, just in different corners and different places that we haven't visited yet? I mean, how are we going to see all that sweet, sweet loot? To change gears, IGN has had their IGN First series going on with Destiny 2, and the passion they have is definitely felt through the series. I loved being able to watch all the interviews and the way that they told us about the upcoming events. It just makes me want to sink my teeth into the game even more from a gameplay perspective. From a story perspective, I'm still somewhat up in the air, but I think they may have shown us something in the recent Nessus exploration video that makes me think we've seen a collectible that they hinted at back in early trailers and interviews for the game. On Nessus, outside the Lost Sector area, there seems to be something you can pick up called a data lattice. If you're not familiar with what these are today, we'll break down the word quickly. Data defines as facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. A lattice, used by the physics definition, is a regular repeated three-dimensional arrangement of atoms, ions, or molecules in a metal or other crystalline solid. Put them all together and you get a model or shape that holds a lot of data. Or really, that could break down into being something like an engram or Jedi holocron if we want to go that far, but it makes me wonder what it is. Could it be some collectible? Is it the material on the planet that we use for upgrades? Is it purely for information about the lost sector that's in front of? Is it something else entirely? I can only speculate at this point since they teased us and didn't pick the thing up, but I'm certainly hopeful of this being some kind of piece we can grab up and have as a codex within the game for some added lore. As always, let me know what you guys think below in case I'm missing a possibility, but with Exodus Black having crash landed on Nessus and them having pushed out into the planetoid to find different ways to live, it makes me wonder what else we could find that could pertain back to the colony ship. I feel like Nessus is going to have a lot of Golden Age and Collapse information for us. And speaking of a lot of information, we were told in several articles that the total number of cutscenes for Destiny 2 is over 50. This information comes from the San Diego Comic-Con panel for Destiny 2, and they showcased a cutscene of Zavala at the end of his story arc at the panel to showcase what they meant by a cutscene. I'm hopeful that this doesn't mean they're including all the times your character will fly into a place with his ship with limited information about the mission you're on, and small introductions for characters that we may have already seen before. Really, the way that Destiny and most other first-person shooters should play out their story would be with a lot of cutscenes for information, or at least I would hope. It's not like they can have an introduction with something and then go to a text box like in an RPG like Final Fantasy, or something otherwise. Still, for comparison's sake, the total number of cutscenes in vanilla Destiny was 17, so regardless of the heroic introductions of characters in your Guardian, this still bodes pretty well as a great number. It does make me question then how much of that nice big file size we keep hearing about is cutscenes, and how much is going to be the explorable areas, but positive thoughts. Positive. We will see, and it's not that long to wait. But I can't help but get Metal Gear Solid 4 flashbacks. Anyway, I think that'll about do it for me on this news and what we've heard so far. There is a lot more out there, so if you venture to check out the IGN First or anything else, go ahead and do so. But this is the stuff that really perked my interest over the last few days, and I'm really hopeful of that data lattice item being something instead of nothing. I definitely did like the beta overall, but those thoughts are for a different time, and I have some extended thoughts that I really want to put out there for you guys to hear. As always, gang, I can only ever be Beard Grizzly, and if you like what I heard, you know the buttons to push in here at this point, and tell me what you thought of this little news roundup with a little lore twist. If you're not sure what to say in the comments below, but would like to leave something, just leave the word data lattice for obvious reasons that we talked about today. If nothing else, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you next Spacetime Guardian. Take care.